Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Sailor Ultramarine. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. There's timestamps down below so that you can skip around, but if you got the time, I would appreciate you if you check out the entire video. You can follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would remind you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Parker Jotter with a medium nib. I wrote with it for a day and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to standardize some of my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper for all of the inks. I do use other papers, and some of those will show up later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jentle 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jentle X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jentle X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. Gotta put my glasses aside. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does offer spots of much darker writing. Which is a hint to the idea that it could have much more shading. Now, the extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice peppering of shading throughout with 11 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still a very nice peppering of shading throughout. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation in the far left to far right, and we get it in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 21 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not quite as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 28 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any in the writing. And Rhodia, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. There is a nice peppering of shading in here. 13 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, same peppering of shading, but because of the thicker lines, it's a little easier to notice. 18 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us color variation, and we do get it in the writing. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we get is really just a blue. The light blue pushes its way up. Now there's an interesting moment of tone that's going on in the middle on its way up. So what I actually see on the bottom of the blue, it is blue, but it's a lighter blue. And then as we're moving up, if you take a good close look, it's actually a purple leaning blue, and then a very dark blue at the top. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what we get is a lot of that lighter blue and a bunch of that darker blue stays on the bottom. The light blue's not moving, the darker blue is pushing its way up, but very noticeable through the center is that purple tone that showed up in the first chromatography. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I'm a bit surprised that the lowercase h had the blowout the way it did. Although I can completely read it, it is safe to use in a note-taking situation. I just probably wouldn't. Water is lifting all the darkest tones that were there. We do start to see some of the white of the paper coming through on the right side of the water. Water is all that it took to get it out of my fountain pen. Now, Pen Flush does everything that water does and a bit faster. You see a lot more white of the paper coming through where the Pen Flush was used, and that's only 30 seconds of it sitting there. 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper, but there's no need to use that to get this out of your pen.
I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I'll link that somewhere here. And for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Put the data onto a bell curve or standard deviation for it to be easily understood.
Sailor's Ultramarine has a viscosity of 2.22, making it normal.
To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those, and what I found is the average dry time is 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds.
Sailor's Ultramarine has an average dry time of 18 seconds, making it still normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Sailor's Ultramarine, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Here I went for a nice orange, and I chose the Atramentis Red Orange. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia, Life, and G-Lalo paper. Here we're looking at yellow Rhodia, not to look for performance changes, but more to see, do we get any kind of tone change that might affect things in our professional environments? And it's not the same blue. There is a very slight turquoise lean, but very slight. Anybody that might make an issue for that in a professional environment is probably looking for something to nitpick at you personally over professionally. It's just good to know that you do get the slightest of tone change. Life paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Now the extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very light peppering of tone shift here, of some shading here, like the K or the B or the word the. It's there, just not a lot. 11 seconds to dry. Medium is just a little bit darker than the extra fine, nowhere near as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some great shading throughout. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for the extra fine doesn't really show color variation. We do get little bits. The medium shows more, and we do get a lot more. And here we're looking at G-Lalo paper. Now we get no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. We do get a very nice sprinkling of shading throughout here with 6 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, still a very nice sprinkling of shading, although I think it looked better with the extra fine. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show color variation far left to far right, and we do get it in the writing. And that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Sailor's Ultramarine? I think Ultramarine might be my favorite color of blue, my favorite shade of blue, and this one is a perfect match. Perfectly named, well executed. It didn't need a lot of shading to really stand out and look great on the page. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Regardless of nib size, a very wet pen is going to put a very bright, vibrant blue down every time. Not a lot of shading, but it's going to be gorgeous. If you've enjoyed this video, remember, I like thumbs up, you like thumbs up, everybody likes thumbs up. Unless you didn't like it, then give me the thumbs down. Both are good. Thanks for watching.